sorry to let you know that it's not something particularly exciting, and that it's a very routine action that we're taking as a formality. The city did not previously declare because we were under the declaration of the County of Kern. With the governor's new executive order, there is some important steps that we need to take to ensure that we have clarity for what those essential employee services are under the definitions outlined in the governor's order, so that we can give clear direction to our employees about the services that we're going to continue to provide. And it also continues to give us access to state and federal funds. So beyond the fact that the declaration of emergency is a routine formality, I would just add again the same statements that we have been issuing for the past several weeks. The city has taken significant steps to limit our operations in areas like recreation and in large gatherings and in special events per the guidelines already issued by the governor's office. The city has also taken steps to help create some protocols to encourage people to access city services online and by phone, as well as some protocols in some of our offices to help promote social distancing, such as dropping off applications that typically would have been addressed over the counter. We're asking folks to drop those off. They'll then later be reviewed. And again, especially encouraging folks to use those online and telephone tools. Beyond city operations, I do just also want to reiterate that the guidelines that have already been issued by the governor and by public health here in Kern County and the city is that we should practice social distancing. When appropriate, we should be staying home. When we have opportunities to go and conduct business, we should do that with appropriate social distancing. I think that this stay-home order from the governor doesn't really change in a large degree the activities that we've already been doing for several weeks to help make sure we do slow down the spread of the coronavirus. This is a big deal. We do need to take precautions, but we don't need to panic. As I've stated before, the city is open for business. Essential services will be maintained. Our police services, our fire services, and other services we consider essential, our water, our wastewater, our ability to pick up refuse and trash. These things will continue to be provided to the community. We do expect that because we're trying to practice social distancing, some of our services may only be available online or by phone. Some of our offices are not going to have customers received at front counters, but business will continue through those other methods. And in addition, because of so much that's going on, we ask you to be patient with some of our services as we ensure that those critical public safety and health services are our top priority. With that, I'll take a few questions.
How is City of Bakersfield law enforcement being affected? Any special measures? I know they come in contact with you more often than anyone else.
Our officers are being issued personal protective equipment to ensure that they're safe. We're also, again, encouraging folks to submit their reports online and by phone as opposed to in person. Otherwise, our police officers will continue to do their jobs.
So who's going to police this? I mean, I've been out in the streets having to be a reporter out there, and businesses like certain bars, certain hair salons, certain hotels, just in the downtown area, aren't necessarily taking the recommendations. So who's going to start policing this at all, and if so, how?
To answer that question, I'll reflect back to the statements that the governor issued in his executive order. We're looking at expecting and hoping that everyone will do what's right by the public good for their community. The governor referenced social pressures and encouraging people to follow these guidelines voluntarily because it is the right thing to do. The city is not in a position to begin doing enforcement of the stay-home order, and just as the governor stated, that's largely going to be voluntary.
Even the businesses?
Even the businesses, if there are particular instances where there are health and safety concerns that are egregious, we'll take those on a case-by-case basis. But as noted in the governor's comments, this enforcement is largely by goodwill, voluntary, and social pressures.
So just for clarification's sake, this is not a shelter-in-place order, which is a law enforcement decree, right? So you
Correct.
can't force people to stay in there.
This is not a shelter-in-place order. This is a stay-home urging by the governor, and we will be compliant with the governor's recommendations, but it is not a shelter-in-place order.
Mr. Clegg, when you began the press conference, you said this declaring a state of emergency is rather routine. I understand a lot of it has to do with opening the door for federal and state funding. Can you go into that and why that's significant for the city of Bakersfield?
Yes, the federal government has actually already outlined that there are $500 million in FEMA funds that are going to be available for reimbursement for those expenses incurred responding to the COVID-19 issue. And we anticipate there may be other pots of money that come available, and we just want to make sure we're compliant in being able to at least request those.
We've had some calls into our station about people unsure if their business is considered essential. How would citizens know?
This is a frequent question. The governor's order outlined 16 critical infrastructure services, and the federal government has issued a clarifying document that has more specifics to that. We don't necessarily expect that all of our residents will go to that document and read through that whole list. So the city will be trying to create a summarized list, but it will be for reference only as culled from those federal guidelines. It's not going to be a city-specific order. It will just be reflecting what's already in there to make it a little easier to digest for our community. Beyond that, I would also point people to our public health department. The public health department has established a hotline that's available 7 days a week from 8 to 5. That number is going to be placed on our website for the COVID response. And individuals are taking those calls readily to understand what does this mean for me and my business or me and my family.
Are there any specific departments within the city that are going to stop operating or really slow down what they're doing?
I would actually first reflect that we've already made some operational changes, like for recreation, by example. Our sports programs, our pools, our community centers, they've already been closed for more than a week. There are other operations that will slow down. As I mentioned, we ask for our community to have patience with us as they do some of their licensing payments and some of the business that they would do with the city treasury. Some of those operations, I think, will be a little bit slower. And as well as in our permitting center, that some of our protocols we put in place to have social distancing may create some delays. But otherwise, city operations will be maintained, just slowed down.
Are the parks going to remain open?
Parks are going to remain open.
About how much staff would you say, whether percentage-wise or by 1/3 or 1/3 of the total workforce?
We're actually working through alternate work scenarios, having folks work from home, and we're still working through some of the leave requests and those that will be on admin leave, and we don't have the numbers ready today. But by early next week, we'll be able to give a clearer picture of percentages and numbers. Essentially, though, what I would communicate, though, is city offices are open and the city is doing business. There just may be some limitations that we're pushing, again, to have online and phone business only in some instances. In other instances, we'll just have some delays.
So the governor, you really mentioned a lot of things that he mentioned in the press conference yesterday. One of the things he mentioned was if you see something, say something sort of guidelines. So again, I'm going to go back to this policing thing. When is there a scenario that you could give us a Wikipedia intro version example of when a community member should be vigilant in reporting it to law enforcement officials that someone isn't necessarily complying and is now a risk to the community?
I don't think I'm prepared to give each case study of what that might look like. The governor said that many individuals are starting to get a sense of what this means and what this doesn't mean, and I think I'll leave it to his statements again and not try and go beyond that as far as how we expect people to do self-regulation and self-policing on this.
Mr. City Manager, the City Council still has a role to play here, right? Can you explain that and what the significance of that might be?
Absolutely. It is within my authority as the Director of Emergency Services to declare emergency, but that then needs to be ratified by the City Council, and that will come forward to them at Wednesday's City Council meeting on the 25th.
What's the level of coordination between you guys and the county? I know public health says there's about 250 tests that are still waiting results, and obviously we could see our numbers increase.
We're in constant communication with public health. We've also had very regular communication with the county to talk about how they're addressing it, just to share best ideas as well as have consistent messaging. And I would say, because the question was raised, we do anticipate that the number of confirmed cases will increase. That's largely because we're doing increasing testing, but it's also expected. We knew that the number of cases would increase. It's part of the projections and part of the plan, and the good news is I've met with public health and I feel very reassured that they're ready for this. Our medical professionals are ready for this. It was, again, part of what we expected. We're just taking these precautionary measures to make sure that we slow down the spread so that they have the capacity to respond appropriately.
I don't mean to harp on this, but as a viewer, if I was watching this, if I was looking out the window and seeing a hair salon open right now, I wouldn't know what to do and what was allowed in the city of Bakersfield. So can you quantify those businesses, not so much you going out of your house, you've made it very clear, go on your walks, be safe, practice social distancing, but these businesses that are remaining open, what is your message to them that are considered non-essential?
Well, my message to all of our businesses is that they should look into whether or not they are considered critical infrastructure per the federal government guidelines that the governor referenced in his order. The city, as I mentioned, will be creating a summarized list. It won't be all-inclusive, but it will be at least a help to help people navigate should this business be open or not. And if individuals have questions, we encourage them to call public health for clarification.
Many people in the community have basically just said, like, are the police going to do something about this? What's your answer to that?
My answer is that our police will focus first on priority calls the same way that they have been. Our police have a critical public safety function in this community, and we're going to focus on that priority first.
Is there a time frame for this emergency declaration? Does it span a certain amount of months or anything like that? Or is it
It's an open-ended declaration at this point. All right, thank you all.